Good morning and welcome to St. Paul's United Methodist Church. This morning I'm reading to you from the 7th chapter of Matthew's account of the Gospel. Don't pick on other people, Jesus says, jumping on their failures, criticizing their faults, unless, of course, you want the same in return. That critical spirit has a way of boomeranging. It's easy to see a smudge on your neighbor's face and be oblivious to the ugly sneer on your own. Do you have the nerve to say, "Let me wash your face for you," when your own face is distorted by contempt? It's this whole traveling roadshow mentality all over again, playing a holier-than-thou part instead of playing your part. Wipe that ugly sneer off your face, and you might be fit to offer a washcloth to your neighbor. Don't be flip with the sacred. Banter and silliness give no honor to God. Don't reduce holy mysteries to slogans. In trying to be relevant, you're only being cute and inviting sacrilege. This morning's story is how I sold my vacuum cleaner. Well, this is the way it went. I've been going to the Main Street vacuum cleaner store for years. I had agreed to sell vacuum cleaners when I was 6 or 7. But years had gone by and I had never sold one yet. Despite the head salesman week after week telling us, personally owning a vacuum cleaner is the most important thing in the world. Well, it happened one day. I was at home, minding my own business, changing the bag on the cleaner, and Mrs. Jones barges in the front door, and I like, what? And she said, "There's something different about you that nobody else on this street has." And then she notices, "You have a vacuum cleaner." No, that's my dog. And she looks at me kind of sideways, shrugs her shoulder, and leaves. And I felt really bad, because I really wanted to sell her a vacuum cleaner, and I know she'd like it if she just gave it a chance. Well, I thought, I've got to do something different. Whatever I'm doing isn't working. So I'll find somebody who's really good at it and ask for help. And went down to the vacuum cleaner store the next week and met Mr. Wilson. Now, he was an older salesman. He'd been a salesman for 40 or 50 years. And his answer to my question was, "You've got to pull out all the stops. Be aggressive. That's what people respond to." And I went with him out to the park, and he pulled up this, literally, I kid you not, a soapbox. He gets up on top of the soapbox and says, "You pigs! Your floors are filthy. Your carpets are a disgrace. You must have a vacuum cleaner." Well, the crowd, which had gathered to watch the show, just kind of shook their heads and started to drift away. And Mr. Wilson said, "They're probably going to get their money." Well, 2 or 3 hours later, they still hadn't come back. And I said to Mr. Wilson, "Well, I really kind of need to be going." And to no one in particular, he said, "Okay, that's fine. That's not for me. I can't sell a vacuum cleaner this way." As I was going home, I passed by this storefront. They had a whole display set up of how to sell vacuum cleaner books and what to do with the vacuum cleaner and instruction manuals in all varieties. And I went in and looked around, and I found this pamphlet, and it was how to sell vacuums. Well, this is what I needed. This is for me. And I looked at this pamphlet and looked at it and looked at it and said, okay, I know what to do. And I was walking down the street with my vacuum cleaner, and I knocked on the first door, and this lady opened it up, and I says, hello, Mrs. Insert Name here. Would you like to have a vacuum cleaner? It's a black MS-17 cleaner, and it can handle goes to 45-degree angles. What? And she slams the door. Oh, well, she's probably tired. So I went to the next house and ring the doorbell, and a man comes to the door and says, hello, Mr. Insert Name here. Would you like to have a vacuum cleaner like mine? It is swell. It has 2.4 horsepower. And he said something about, well, that sounds pretty good, but I had a pitch to get through. And I rushed through it, and when I look up, the door's closed. I just can't do it. So I go home and turn on the TV, and there was one of those famous television salesmen. And Brother Dusty. You may have heard of him. He has the Upright Hour. And he talked about what they had available in the online store. They had bumper stickers. They had bags with gilt edges on it. They even had a tour to the ancient vacuum cleaner factory. But then he never actually talked about selling. He never actually talked about the vacuum cleaners or how to use them or anything like that. It's all about selling him. Well, I had tried silence. I had tried shouting. I had tried door to door. And I thought, what's left? Well, I remembered something that the head salesman said about inviting other people that you knew to have a vacuum cleaner. So I took my vacuum cleaner with me and just happened to bump into my good friend Bob down at the grocery store. And I said, hi, Bob. And he said, oh, how you doing? And we started talking a little bit, and I said, hey, Bob, I'd like to invite you down to the vacuum cleaner store. And he got real nervous. And I said, because, you know, I've been going for a while, and I'm really liking it, and I'm sure you would too. Bob said, you know, my parents took me to the vacuum cleaner store for years when I was a kid. Bored me silly. And he just kind of backed away and put his hands up and went about his shopping. And I felt so bad. I really did. Just then, I noticed that someone had knocked a jar containing dried beans or peanuts or something. I don't know what it was. And I thought, you know, somebody might step on that and get hurt. I might as well clean it up. Maybe someone get hurt before I could find somebody who knew what they were doing. So I find an outlet, and I plugged my vacuum cleaner in and started cleaning up. Just then, who should show up but my neighbor, Mrs. Dombrowski. And she said, say, vacuum cleaner works really good, even in a store. And I said, yeah, it's pretty good. It gets the job done. And she says, where could I get one of these? And it dawned on me. She's asking me how to get a vacuum cleaner. And that's how I sold my first vacuum cleaner. And what I realized was what the company needed more than anything else was demonstration models. Well, the point of the story, the point of the gospel lesson is that when we focus on the how, the where, instead of focusing on the why and the who, then we get in trouble. When we focus on where we serve God, where we worship, where we go, when we focus on how we do these things, how do we hold our hands, how do we sing, how do we do the acts of worshiping God, instead of remembering the why. Why do we worship God? Why do we believe that there is a God? You see, in all my years of being in ministry, I'm not sure, well, let me just say, I don't think I know, well, I know, I haven't saved anyone, because that's not my job. It's not your job. Our job is to share the salvation offered to all humanity, all of creation by our God. That's it. All the rest, which version of the Bible you read, which prayer you remember, how many years you've been a member, all those things are details. But ultimately they don't matter. We are in a time that's not unlike any generation before us. For every generation before us, going back thousands of years, needs that reminder that your Creator loves you. That you're not here by accident. That whether you pray standing up or kneeling or pray in another language, regardless of how or where or when, just know that you matter. That you're not being saved from something. You're being saved for something. And that something is to be in the presence of your Creator, to experience love not just someday, not just in heaven, but today, in this community, in your home. In all of this, we know that salvation, the practical divinity that Wesley spoke of, is lived out in our daily life, in how we live, in who we offer our friendship to. We have so much to offer the world. But it's not about us. It's about God. Offer God in your life and be amazed at what God can do with your offering. Amen.